for the layman here, which most of us obviously are, how this test works and why you exclude breast cancer and prostate cancer.
Sure, and let's talk about the problem. The problem is that cancer is the #1 cause of death among people who are under 85. That's 600,000 people a year, and 2 million people are diagnosed. So it's the #1 health problem if you look at it through that lens. And today we're screening for only 4 types of cancer. And there are 50 types of cancers and subtypes that we can screen for now, one blood draw, all of those different types. And the goal should be finding cancer as early as possible when it's treatable. There's early stage cancer, and early stage cancer generally doesn't have symptoms, but it's also small and localized and treatable. Late stage cancer, however, is spread throughout the body and sometimes doesn't have symptoms. So the whole goal with Cancer Guard is to shift detection to the earliest stages when it is most treatable. And it's powerful science. We're kind of at the dawn of a new era. The reason that we don't search for prostate cancer and breast cancer those are uniquely 2 cancers that don't shed a lot of DNA into the blood, so they're hard to detect. And an important thing to understand here is that this test is not intended to replace the current screening that people undergo. It's to screen for the 70% of cancers for which there is no screening method.
Kevin, the ability of this test also to detect cancer on your trials is about 64%. Again, a layperson might look at that and say, that's not exactly a high figure. It is better than 50%, than even odds, but 64%. Is that high enough to use this as a screening for population screening, that sort of thing?
It is, and here's why. Because today what we do is we find cancer symptomatically, which means it's not 64%. It is 0% until that cancer grows large enough to actually start to present symptoms. And cancer, and I never knew this, but cancer actually takes up 1 to 3 years to advance from early stage to late stage. So you have a lot of time to find that. And if you can go out into a population of, let's say, 100 million people over the age of 50 and find 2/3 of cancers tomorrow, would we? Of course we would, because then you're finding it when it's eminently treatable. There just is no therapy as powerful as earlier detection. But now when you couple earlier detection with the advanced therapies that are being developed, you have a total new paradigm to actually start to change the outcomes. Earlier detection, better outcomes.
You have a competitor, Grail. It has a cancer test, Galleri or Galeri, depending, I guess, on where you're from. And it's a lower price at a lower price point. Why is your test better? Why are you charging more for it?
It's the opposite. We picked a lower price point than others who are here. And the reason that we picked a lower price point at $689 is because we want to democratize testing. We want as many people to have access as possible. Over time, we believe Medicare will be able to cover the test. There's a bipartisan bill with over 350 co-sponsors today to allow Medicare to evaluate and potentially cover this class of testing. We think that the more companies that are doing fundamental research and involved in this space, the better it is for patients. We believe Cancer Guard is the test that will ultimately be the most successful in getting the most people screened.
Kevin, you've been at Exact Sciences for some time now, since 2014 and 2009, perhaps before that, acting in different capacities. You've been with this company as it's had to report every single quarter, as is mandated by the SEC. We would really love to get your thoughts this morning. President Trump putting out on Truth Social saying that he would like to see the SEC take away that requirement and just have a company report every 6 months. What do you think about quarterly reporting? Is it good for corporate America? Would you like to see that move to a system where the mandate is just twice a year and optional if you want to report quarterly?
I think I just had my 70th earnings call, and
Congratulations.
there are about 1,000 that I would prefer to do than do an earnings call. But here's what I thought about this on the way into work this morning as I heard this on the radio. And look, I think that transparency is so important in public companies and integrity. And the process of reporting financials every 3 months allows a company to share the information, allows investors to decide where that company is in their process. I think that frequently investors are too short-term focused and not enough long-term focused. Maybe this would extend that out. But on the flip side, there would be less transparency and investors would have less information. I tend to believe more information is probably better for investors.